Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to make a leather top hat. And to create this project, I went ahead and kind of roughed out a pattern from looking at some other patterns I've seen on the internet. But I don't actually have a pattern to work from. So I had to work out all my angles myself, fold this out, and basically it's going to be about that long overall. I'm going to completely work out the rest of those angles, get this pattern cut out, and here you go. Here's the pattern completely cut out. I had to add a little bit up there at the top, as you can see with the green tape. But if I go ahead and unfold it, there's my pattern. Next step, transfer it to leather. Not sure how well you can see that, so I won't waste too much of your time looking at those pencil marks. Let's grab the razor blade. Kind of tedious, but not too bad. Lots of straight lines, so overall, pretty quick work. So the way this is going to work is, I went ahead and cut those ends at an angle also, work that out. It's going to roll together something like this, and then I'll stitch these ends together. Let's move on and go ahead and knock out some of the other smaller details of this project. All of our visible edges are going to need to be beveled. So let's get to beveling. Each one of these slots are going to have eyelets running up each side of them. That way I can lace them together later. It's going to help create the contour of the top hat and give it that aesthetic that I'm going for. Trust me, you'll see. Everything is laid out. I've got my very short stitch marks here at this end. As you can see, I've got all my eyelet holes completely punched in. And I've got my stitch line here at the other end. Hopefully this is starting to make a little bit of sense. A top hat's no good without a brim, so that's kind of the step that I'm at now. And here we go. I went ahead and cut this out basically by tracing a hat that I already have. And then I needed to go ahead and create the hole that's going to go in the center of that to match the size of my head. To do that, I grabbed a baseball hat that I happen to have laying around and just traced the outside of that. So now I know that this is going to fit my head perfectly. Those pencil marks, show up remarkably well on camera. So I'm going to kind of trace them out here with my finger. Maybe you can see that. All I did was trace that pattern that I made from tracing the ball hat. And there we go. Center it up, got equal distance on all sides. Everything will work out fine, hopefully. But it's the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and get this cut out. So at this point in the project, I stopped and thought to myself, how am I going to attach this brim to the outside of the top hat without doing a ton of stitching? And I kind of came up with this idea here of doing half circles all the way around this inside line and creating a bunch of tabs that I could rivet to the rest of the hat. I bet you're wondering what I'm talking about and what that's going to look like. It's going to look something like this when it's all cut out. How's that? So my basic plan here now is to take this brim and slip it over the existing part of the hat that I've already created. What's that look like? Well, it looks like something like this. So with everything lined up, I'll be able to go ahead and rivet each one of those tabs to the main body of the hat. And if it works out right, it should again give me the aesthetic that I'm going for. Of course, you want to know what it looks like, right? Well, how's this? I've now joined the bottom part of the hat to the main body of the hat with all those rivets on all those tabs. And as you can see, I went ahead and pre-dyed these sections, making it a little bit easier to work with. Everything's real solid. Everything worked out really good on the measurements. As you can see, looking down. But now I got to come up with how I'm going to do the top of the hat. So I've got my top hat, top circle pattern. What I did is I took a piece of leather. It's slightly oversized, based off of this form here. And you're wondering how I'm going to attach it. Well, I'm going to sew it along the edge. How am I going to do that? Well, first thing I'm going to do is mark my stitch line. And to do that, I just come in with my caliper and scratch a line, maybe, I don't know what I'm calling this, maybe 1/8 of an inch in, something like that. as long as I can stay on my line there. We'll go ahead and mark that in all the way around. To get this crown to work right, I'm going to go ahead and wet mold it. I've already kind of dampened the leather there. And I'm going to basically just push the form back into the circle of this board where I already cut it out from originally. Get everything lined up. And it just so happens that the leather is exactly the same thickness that my blade was when I cut that out. So it fits in there perfectly. We'll let this dry overnight, come back and see how it worked. So it's the next day, but through the magic of editing, for you it's only been a couple of seconds. So there we go. Everything's all dried out. Let's go ahead and pop it out of the mold here. Pretty simple. Set that to the side. There's a reason I don't throw anything away. Set the pattern aside, and now the crown or top of the top hat has a perfect rim around the inside of it where I'll be able to sew it to the body of the hat itself. So basically I will have this piece here which will sit inside somehow the top of the hat. And because I'm extremely fortunate, all my measurements worked out and everything's going to line up just fine. But how exactly am I going to attach that? Well, I'm going to kind of fold this over. But to fold this over, I'm going to have to turn the entire hat inside out. I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and I'll show you what this looks like. I turned the hat inside out, and then as you can see, I stitched along the inside line there all the way around. That is a lot of hand stitching, but well worth it, because let me show you the final results. Here you go. Flipping the hat back the right side out, you can see that I've created exactly the type of rolled edge that I was looking for. The top rolls perfectly into the main body of the hat. There's a little close-up there. And I just about think it's time to get this all dyed up. But I've got one more problem with this thing that I need to work through first. And let me show you what that is. In my opinion, the underside of this hat is way too flimsy. It's only a 6-ounce veg tan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 4-ounce veg tan and double it up. But to do that effectively, I'm going to have to kind of line everything up, reach through here, and then trace my hole size for my head on that piece of veg tan. And as you can see, I've already got that done. And now with my little calipers here, I'm going to come in about 1 inch and strike another line around the inside rim of this hat. Basically what that's going to do is I'm going to create multiple little tabs that are going to make the size of this hat adjustable. You're wondering what I'm talking about. Well, here it is. At some later point, I may or may not tack down each one of those individual tabs. But right now what I've discovered is exactly what I've already said. This makes the hat adjustable for different size heads. Fits mine absolutely perfectly at this point. I love how it kind of flexes and stays nice and snug. Time to work out the final details. I'm in the home stretch on this thing, so I need to go ahead and contact cement the new bottom side of that brim to the main body of the hat, and this hat would look like crap if I don't go ahead and add a band around the outside of that. Let's get that done. I marked out some spots for some contact cement. I don't need to do the whole thing because it's actually going to be sewn together in the final project. Right now, this will hold it together until I get that part done. With the underside of the brim in place, I went ahead and put the outside band on with, again, just a little bit of contact cement to hold it in place until I can sew it. The wire there I'm going to hide underneath this band, and it's going to give me some flexibility so that the band will hold its shape. Lots of clothespins in place, holding everything nice and tight. I've got the band rolled over the edge all the way around the brim of the hat. Everything's nice and tight. Just need it to hold long enough for me to hand stitch all the way around. And that's going to take some time. I'm going to save you that and just go ahead and show you how this part turned out. Everything's sewn together. You can see that. I got everything under dye. I'm going to end up hitting that again. It's a little light, but the nice thing about working with black is at least it's not going to streak on me. You see the top, how that turned out. Super happy. I'm going to be using this cordage here to lace through all my little holes there. I'm going to double it up and see how it works out. You tell me. Here we have the final completed top hat. I'd like your opinion about how this turned out. Personally, I absolutely love it. It's even better than I thought it was going to be. This project took a considerable amount of time, mainly because I wasn't working from a pattern and I was kind of making things up on the fly as I went. Kind of experimenting with things and seeing what worked and seeing what didn't. I had very few major difficulties with it, few things that I had to go back and tweak after the fact, but overall, I'm super happy with this project. So hopefully, if you're the type of guy or gal that finds yourself in need of a top hat, this video has been of some help to you. If it has, well, you know that I'd appreciate that thumbs up like. Feel free to follow us on Instagram and see what projects don't make it to video. And maybe, just maybe, I'll see you on the next video. If you enjoy videos about the randomness of our amazing world, consider clicking on the globe to subscribe, or maybe checking out one of the other videos right here.